The studio lights buzzed with that familiar electric hum, casting a warm glow over the sleek set of the Jennifer Hudson Show, where the audience of about 200 souls sat poised in their seats, a mix of eager fans clutching signed posters and casual viewers drawn by the promise of star power. Jennifer Hudson, resplendent in a shimmering emerald gown that hugged her curves like a second skin, her signature smile lighting up the room like a beacon, stepped out from behind the curtains to thunderous applause that echoed off the high ceilings adorned with twinkling LED stars mimicking a night sky. At 44, Jennifer had transformed from the powerhouse vocalist of American Idol fame into a talk show titan, her EGOT status, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, lending her an aura of unassailable grace. Yet beneath that polished exterior simmered the survivor's fire forged in the tragic loss of her family back in 2008. A horror that had sculpted her empathy into something razor-sharp. Today's guest was none other than Denzel Washington, the 70-year-old colossus of cinema, whose chiseled features and piercing gaze had commanded screens for decades, from the raw intensity of Training Day to the soul-stirring redemption of the Equalizer series. He arrived in a tailored charcoal suit that spoke of quiet authority, his salt and pepper beard trimmed to perfection, exuding that effortless charisma that made directors weep with gratitude. As the band struck up a funky, upbeat intro, blending soulful horns with a driving bass line reminiscent of Hudson's own gospel roots, Jennifer waved enthusiastically, her diamond earrings catching the light like fireflies in flight, while Denzel settled into the plush guest chair, crossing his legs with the poise of a man who'd stared down Oscar winners without flinching. As the commercial break loomed like a distant horizon, the conversation deepened into the fertile soil of personal philosophies, Jennifer's hands gesturing animatedly as she delved into Denzel's much-discussed devotion to faith, a cornerstone of his public persona that had inspired sermons in churches and debates in divinity schools alike. Your portrayal of characters grappling with morality, like in the Book of Eli, it feels so authentic, Denzel, because I know it comes from your heart, from those Sunday mornings in Mount Vernon, she said, invoking his New York upbringing with a warmth that invited vulnerability, her own faith journey. From the pews of her grandmother's Zion Hill Baptist Church to the anthems belted on Broadway, mirroring his in ways that promised profound connection. Denzel leaned back, his smile genuine but guarded, the lines around his eyes crinkling like pages in a well-loved scripture, and he shared a snippet of wisdom. Faith isn't a role, Jennifer. It's the script we all live by. Without it, we're just ad-libbing chaos. The audience murmured in agreement, a few heads nodding vigorously, sensing the gravitas of the moment, but Jennifer, undeterred by the poetry of his response, pivoted with the agility of a jazz improviser, her next question slicing toward the controversial underbelly of his views on family and legacy. And yet, you've been vocal about Hollywood's erosion of traditional values, how it glorifies dysfunction. Does that clash with the stories you choose to tell? She asked, her tone curious yet pointed, a subtle challenge wrapped in the guise of dialogue, born perhaps from her own guarded heart, scarred by loss and the media's relentless scrutiny of her post-tragedy life. Denzel's expression flickered, a brief shadow crossing his features like a cloud over the sun, and he straightened, his voice dropping an octave, carrying the weight of decades spent defending his choices against critics who painted him as preachy or patriarchal. With the commercial break aborted in a hasty producer's decision to capture the raw energy, the set transformed into an impromptu arena, the plush chairs now thrones for gladiators armed with wit and wounds, Jennifer's posture straightening as she absorbed Denzel's latest volley, her fingers tightening around the microphone like a lifeline in turbulent seas. The audience, a sea of wide eyes and held breaths, leaned forward collectively, the energy palpable, a cocktail of shock and schadenfreude bubbling beneath the surface as whispers rippled through the rows. Did he just say that? She's not backing down. Denzel, unflappable on screen but human in the harsh glare of live TV, elaborated with the passion of a preacher mounting his pulpit, his hands gesturing broadly, painting pictures of a Hollywood he'd navigated for 40 years, rife with temptations that ensnared the unwary, his voice rising in cadence like the swells of a sermon. I've seen brothers and sisters rise, only to tumble because we chase the spotlight over the substance. Your story, Jennifer, it's a testament to rising above, but not everyone gets that second act. He intoned, intending inspiration but landing as indictment, his eyes earnest yet unyielding, drawing from his own fortress of family, married to Paletta for over 4 decades, a rarity in Tinseltown's transient landscape. Jennifer felt the sting acutely, her own romantic entanglements post-divorce a private saga she guarded fiercely, and in response, she unleashed a torrent of her own, her voice modulating from contralto warmth to soprano sharpness, recounting the hypocrisy she'd witnessed in award show speeches extolling virtue while backroom deals devoured the vulnerable. Midway through what was billed as a celebratory chat, the fault lines widened into chasms, Jennifer's laughter long evaporated, replaced by a steely resolve that echoed her Oscar-winning ferocity in scenes of unbridled emotion, her body language shifting from open palms to crossed arms, a fortress against the onslaught of Denzel's doctrinal discourse. He, in turn, animated by the conviction that had defined his roles as moral compasses, from Malcolm X's fiery oratory to Creasy's vengeful vigilante, leaned in, his voice a rolling thunder, dissecting the cultural cost of edgy storytelling with examples pulled from recent blockbusters, films he argued peddled pain without purpose, his critique broad but pointed enough to graze Jennifer's portfolio. "We're not just entertainers. We're elders in this village, Jennifer. Do we hand the young ones broken mirrors or ones that reflect healing?" He posed, the rhetorical flourish landing like a challenge, his gaze unwavering, drawing the audience into his orbit, many nodding in solemn accord, swayed by the gravitas of a man who'd mentored generations off-screen as much as on. But Jennifer, no neophyte to such interrogations, countered with the precision of a countertenor hitting high notes, her response a lyrical indictment of selective morality. "Elders? Then why do the village gates stay locked for so many? Denzel? You walk through them, but preach to those still knocking. My mirror's cracked because life cracked it, not because I chose the shatter." The riposte drew cheers from the back rows, where younger fans saw in her the echo of their own frustrations, the divide generational as much as personal, the studio fracturing into factions under the relentless spotlights that now felt accusatory rather than illuminating. The tipping point arrived unheralded, a confluence of fatigue and fervor where Denzel's passion crested into what could only be called a tirade, his body rising halfway from the chair in emphasis, veins standing out on his neck like cords on a marionette pushed to extremes, as he lambasted the soul-sucking siren call of modern media, his examples veering perilously close to Jennifer's recent ventures, a Netflix special blending memoir and melody that had courted controversy for its candid take on celebrity scandals. "We package pain as entertainment, Jennifer, and call it art. You're special?" Brilliant voice, yes, but it feeds the frenzy, doesn't it? "The very frenzy that took your family's privacy?" he exclaimed, the reference to her 2008 tragedy slipping out like a Freudian dagger, unintended perhaps but devastating in its precision. The studio gasping as one, the air sucked out like a vacuum seal broken. Jennifer's face drained of color, her eyes widening in disbelief then narrowing in fury. The wound reopened raw and bleeding under the Klieg lights, years of therapy unraveled in a single sentence. She rose to her feet, microphone clutched like a weapon, her voice a whip-crack of indignation. "How dare you, Denzel? How dare you weaponize my loss to score points on some high horse? You don't know the half of what I've buried to stand here smiling for you." The audience exploded, a roar of outrage from her supporters drowning Denzel's attempts at backpedal. "I meant no, Jennifer. That's not." But the damage cascaded, irretrievable, the sacred boundary of personal trauma breached in a public coliseum. Chaos reigned as Jennifer paced the stage, tears streaming now, unchecked, her gown's fabric whispering against the polished floor, while Denzel stood fully, hands outstretched in supplication. His suit jacket askew, the icon stripped to vulnerability, murmuring apologies that echoed hollowly.